The Questions Log, Week 23. For choice is the domain only of the strong, the way of true freedom. Trapped within thy law, weak ye are revealed, and thus choice ain't for ye. And saying thus, the handcuffs snapped closed, and the beatings did begin. For 40 days and nights, yea, they did torture the detective, until his mind became as broken as his body. I know we should probably be focusing on liberating these child sacrifices here, but I'm sure nobody'll get hurt if we let Snake Fatal finish her sermon. I gotta know where this is going. This is 52 Pickup.
Hello, and welcome to 52 Pickup, a podcast about the greatest comic you've never heard of. I'm Gita.
And I am professional comic book expert Alex Jaffe.
You sure are, Alex Jaffe. You sure are.
I'm trying not to be super excited that you nailed the intro on your first take.
I did on the first take for the first time ever.
One take, Gita. That's what they call them.
Yeah,
here we are in the studio, ready to do it again. We're creeping up on that halfway point, aren't we?
Yeah, we are going to have a little special episode once we get to the halfway point to just sort of summarize all the storylines, and we need you to send in questions for that. Let's just get that on wax right now.
52mailbag@gmail.com.
Exactly. 52mailbag@gmail.com. That is the email you want to send questions for the question bag. Please. We would love to just answer a whole bunch of questions for this halfway point extravaganza where we just check in on all the storylines and make sure that everybody is on the same page. We all know what's going on, and we'll sum up how much fun we've been having so far.
Yeah. Maybe we start talking about what we're going to do next. One of the most common questions I get in the mailbag is, hey, what are you going to do after 52? I don't know. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Why don't we talk talent? Are you ready to talk talent?
I am, and I'm curious about this issue's talent because I can see with my eyes it looks a little different.
Yeah, we've got some new artists here, new to this book, but not new to this team. We've got Drew Johnson and Ray Snyder, who were best known at this time for working on Greg Rucka's Wonder Woman, which came to an end just before 52 started. Drew still works with DC today, recently doing cover art for Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. That was a fun crossover.
Wow, that's a lot of verses.
Yeah. They did this 7-issue series to promote the Godzilla x Kong movie that nobody liked. But King Kong gets a Green Lantern ring in it, so completely justified.
I like the Godzilla versus Kong movie. By the way, I thought it was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah?
It was really weird, but it's very fun.
I had such a bad time in Godzilla versus Kong that I just did not check in for the next one.
I didn't check in for the next one, but I did. That's because I didn't know that Dan Stevens was in it. I'm a little bit in love with him, so now I have to watch it.
Of course. Yeah, Godzilla's a thing I share with my dad. So we watched all of the MonsterVerse movies together, starting with the 2014 Godzilla. And once we got to versus Kong, we were like, yeah, I'm not feeling this anymore.
2014 Godzilla is a special movie.
Yeah.
That's a good movie. That's just genuinely a good movie.
That's
and we're still in that movie. We are also still in the post 9/11 action movie. So it's all about people with PTSD.
Yeah, that's a good movie. Kong Skull Island is a great movie.
Kong Skull Island, I think, is a bit too impressed with itself. I think it's really fun and I really like it, but I think it's a movie made by a person who thinks that they are very clever, and that is something that I'm allergic to. It gives me hives. It's oh, you've seen a movie before, haven't you, you little fucking nerd?
I bet you think you know what's going to happen right now. Yes, again.
So crazy. Come on. A lot of good performances in that movie. It's a lot of fun. I wish I had seen it in the theater. It seems like a really fun theater experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Want to know the funniest Apocalypse Now fact that I know? This is a great story.
Tell it to me.
Early on when David and me dated, we went out to his friend's birthday party at a bar in Lower Manhattan. And there was another extremely beautiful black girl there. And she saw David, and we were not yet in the, we were in the stage of dating where we don't know if it's okay to be all over each other PDA all the time. And she sees David, and she's like, oh, hey, have you seen Apocalypse Now? And David had no idea that she was hitting on him, but I knew as soon as she said that. And I was like, you know what? I respect that.
Yeah.
You clocked what kind of guy that was right away. He has seen Apocalypse Now, and he's got a lot of things he wants to tell you about it.
That's a Coppola boy.
In the bathroom. Yeah, exactly. In the bathroom, she was like, hey, did he come with you? I was like, yes. And then she was like, oh. And didn't talk to him for the rest of the night.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I love hearing about this because I've never been to a party. So I'm living vicariously through you right now. I don't go to parties. I read comics. This is my kind of party.
This is a party right now. So you have been to a party. Checkmate, bitch.
All right. I have to surrender to that.
Yeah,
we got our cover here, a classic comic Pieta pose shot from above. Mm-hmm. Batman's been doing this since like 1940.
Yeah, there's the Supergirl Pieta, which I think is one of the most famous ones that they recreate with Superman and Supergirl all of the time. It's because it's from Crisis.
Yeah, there's the Death of the Family one.
Yeah.
Death in the Family. But yeah, it's a classic dramatic thing. We usually don't see it from above like this. So credit to J.G. Jones, who shows us a boy's nipple being electrocuted, I guess. You see?
Fuck off. Well, that's true, though. It is a boy's nipple being. It's just his nipple.
Yeah. We see Black Adam calling down a thunderbolt from the heavens, just tweaking this Egyptian boy.
You know, he hasn't had a lot in life that he can be excited about.
Yeah.
Let him live. Let him live a little.
We get the title drop right on the cover, The Island of Dr. Morrow, play on the movie buffs here that Kong Skull Island fans will appreciate.
Fucking nerds.
Also an acknowledgement of a very popular fan theory going on through 52 at this time. Renee Montoya, is she the answer?
Mm-hmm.
Because
there's a question, there's the answer.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, if there's a question, why shouldn't there be a guy called the answer?
Again, nerds, shove them in a locker.
Yeah,
we should bully people more. It's the wrong people got bullied, right? That's the wrong people developed like severe chip on their shoulder disease.
Yeah. Why isn't there a Wonder Man?
Oh my God. Every man is Wonder Man. Shut up. Yeah. You live in man's world.
Well, we're getting right back to the best Grant Morrison plot in this whole book.
This is like a wanton display of why it's such a delight. This beginning section of the book.
This issue right here is really like, we said it started last issue, but now Grant Morrison is really partying.
We're just fucking cooking with gas here.
Yeah.
We open up here. And we get all the credits written by Jeff Johns, Grant Morrison, Greg Rucka, Mark Waid. And it's Dr. Morrow. He's waking up.
Dr. Magnus.
Dr. Magnus, right. It's waking up in the back of some kind of decrepit machine. His blindfold has been taken off. The Sentinel from X-Men is rising out of the water.
This was the giant robot that looked like a Sentinel in the last issue. Yeah. But now is drawn more to look like its actual inspiration, which is an obscure Metalman enemy from the 60s named Bolts, a giant robot who appeared in literally one issue. Maybe two.
Of course. Knowing who is working on this, of course, right? Yeah. And he essentially walks up out of the ocean and deposits Dr. Magnus onto a beach where there's bikini babes. And cocktails.
And he's greeted by T.O. Morrow, his old Tuesdays with Morrow confidant, in an Aloha shirt, holding double fisting martinis.
And he's got an ascot on.
Just so absolutely funny. Living his best life.
He's really enjoying it. He's got a bikini babe on each arm. It's really, really great.
Yeah.
And as Dr. Magnus is just completely shell-shocked, trying to figure it out, you see the next page, the panel goes, look out, my Cricketron's gone berserk.
Yeah, that's the bug-eyed bandit, an old Blue Beetle villain, just piloting a giant mechanical cricket, introducing us to the fact that this is an island populated by the missing mad scientists who are just building to their heart's delight ripped off the gills from the finest cocaine.
Yeah, they're like explicitly given drugs, mind-expanding drugs. So like hallucinogens and stimulants probably.
Which is how you know this is a Morrison story.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're given they're told, but also that they should enjoy themselves and invent things to their heart's delight, Dr. Morrow explains. But also, he's like, do we have a choice in the matter? Well, also no.
Yeah, we're just living our best lives here. We were abducted and told to invent. Just take the most evil brains in the world, put them all on an island, and see what happens.
And we see some of the other DC Comics mad scientists here, too. Dr. Savannah is here.
The GOAT, the guy who invented the phrase curses foiled again.
Absolutely. Yes. So, like, are there any deep cuts in this little tableau that I don't know about?
There's IQ, Ira Quimby. He is the guy who's sunbathing to increase his intellect. He's an old Hawkman villain. There's a bunch of weirdos from Dial H for Hero, which was this comic about a kid who had a magic dial that every time he used it, he would turn into a randomly generated superhero. An interesting story that has been reinvented a few times over the past couple decades.
Yeah.
But what was really interesting about it was that the heroes and even the villains were all created by fans, that they would write in with their ideas and they would just use them in the comic. And there was no legal problem with that. They didn't have to be paid. It's not something they have done since. But many of these characters were just like some kid's idea that they just took.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild what they used to get away with.
Yeah,
Don't submit art to art contests, friends. They should be paying you for your spec work.
Right.
That's a job that people have.
Yeah, it's something that like Archie used to do all the time. Send in your designs for Betty and Veronica. Maybe we'll use them.
Oh my God. Yeah, they just didn't give a fuck.
No.
Basically is what that is.
Yeah.
And then they realized that people were like, wait, I should get paid for this. And
what I want to ask you as they look around this lab and Morrow tells Magnus, welcome to the madhouse. You don't have a choice. What is the deal with all of these bikini babes here?
You know, I wondered that also. It doesn't truly make sense. But I suppose that part of being a mad scientist is also fucking a lot.
Yeah.
Probably. But also, is it a Revenge of the Nerds thing, do you think? Like, that's the angle that they're doing it with this here? I know that Morrison also does believe in sex magic.
Yeah.
Which, if you read Invisibles, you can get a front row seat to all of his beliefs on the power of sex. I remember in one of the Invisibles Black Matter, they describe trying to get the invisible sails up by masturbating while thinking about it. So there is something that they personally believe in the magic of sexual energy. So this might be an expression of that, or it might just be, it's just fun to draw bikini babes.
I mean, my thought is in the panel where Morrow is telling Magnus about how they have all this technology and all these drugs and they're being provided with everything they could want. Are they being provided with the women?
I think so. I think so for the sake of becoming inspired by the sexual energy and the wanton sort of like, that's the second time I've said wanton. I should stop saying that word so much. But you know what I mean? Like it's a part of the pleasures of this island to get them to be as insane mad scientists as humanly possible. Well,
speaking of ritual, that's what our next day is about. We're going to skip ahead 4 days into day 5. We're going to Yemen.
Yeah. And that's really, really funny how little they thought about the thing about this scene is about. We're in a meeting of the religion of crime, and they just didn't think of another word for what this religion is. The religion's name is the religion of crime.
The religion of crime.
That's what it is. It's the crime religion.
I know in the sequel to 52, one of the sequel / spin-offs to 52, Greg Rucka's Crime Bible, he tries to rebrand it as the Dark Faith, which is a little better, but it doesn't stick.
It doesn't, because they just called it
because they already called it the religion of crime. People aren't going to forget that.
Stupid. Yeah. It's dumb. So now we're going to punish you with it, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah. And then we see Whisper Adair, the improbably named woman that we met previously in Gotham.
Yes, aka Snake Fatale.
She is just dressed up like a horny goth priest, essentially.
Yeah.
A lot of babes in this issue, for real. And she's giving a reading from the Bible, the crime Bible, the Bible of crime.
Yeah.
Which is the religious text of the religion of crime.
Yeah. I do not know who wrote this. I did Greg Rucka write this? With the red rage and the rock.
That does sound a little bit like him, yeah. It sounds like Greg Rucka's attempts to bring gravitas to things that are perhaps good effort, buddy. You know what I mean? They just don't. I like that he gives them a call and response. Like, they're trying to establish this as a religious order. So she's reading from the crime Bible. And then she says unto Cain, and they repeat back to her unto Cain.
Unto Cain. And also with you.
Yeah, like, exactly. They're evil Catholics.
What's your personal experience with, like, religious ritual?
So my mom is like a Reddit-style atheist. Like, she hates religion so much. But she did get us pujas every school year. So that's a Hindu blessing ritual, essentially, which she would have my violin blessed and she would have my school books blessed. She doesn't consider that religious, though. That's just cultural to her. And for some reason, she was obsessed with this idea of taking us all to midnight mass on Christmas Eve. And we were like, but Mom, that's like a real religious service, and we can't go just to gawk. That's just weird. And if we do go to gawk, they're going to expect us to come back and become Catholics. Like, do you not get that? But she just wanted to see it because it was unusual to her.
I'm sorry, but a blessed violin sounds like a D&D ass artifact.
It is. It basically was. I was a good Asian child. I played violin, and I got a puja to bless my violin every year. So I would do better at learning, I guess.
I grew up in Orthodox Judaism. We went to temple every week. My dad went to temple twice a day. I think he still goes once a day. All of the services were in Hebrew, and I never learned Hebrew.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
So, like, and it was just common. Nobody there knew what they were saying. It was just the ritual. And, like, we had our Israeli cousin visit, and she was like, "Are you telling me that none of you actually know what you're saying?" And then we're like, it's not important what we're saying. It's just that we're saying it. Look, the sages approved it 2,000 years ago. We're taking their word for it. We had prayer books, Siddurim, with English translations, but nobody read them. We just had to get through the service as quick as possible because everyone wanted to go home and eat lunch.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, now I experience that because I married someone who grew up Orthodox, and when his parents are in town right now, actually, and they just texted Dave to be like, "Do you want to go to shul with us tomorrow if you find a place to go?" And he was like, "Maybe."
When I'm with my parents, when they ask, "Do you want to?" the implication is you should.
You
are it's going to be a bad time this weekend.
Yeah. Do you want to go to shul, or do you want to have a bad time with us?
Yes.
It's the real question.
It's like, I won't be happy if you go, but I will be unhappy if you don't go.
Yeah. It's like, there's no positive, there's only negative. It's all stick parenting. You know?
It's exactly how I grew up. Anyway, we got Vic and Renee spying on this ritual from the rafters. They're bringing a boy to sacrifice or indoctrinate or do something to.
They're beating they just eventually figure out they're going to beat the shit out of his legs and break all the bones in his legs because he tried to run away. Right. Weird religion. It's a little bit like, you are aware of Baldur's Gate, at least.
I'm aware, yeah.
Okay, so Shadowheart is a character in that game, and she also belongs to an evil religion. And she describes all these things that they do to her like it's good, but then you're like, you're describing only evil things.
Yeah.
Like, they kidnapped you and they indoctrinated you? It's like, why did you stay, girl? All this stuff sounds super evil.
My thing is, I'm not sure how much of this story is Greg and how much of this is Jeff, because it's very much the intersection of the Question storyline and the Black Adam storyline.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole thing about breaking this boy's legs within the confines of this Shazam mythology that we're building is very much setting up a parallel to Freddie Freeman, Captain Marvel Jr.,
Yes.
who was a boy on crutches who Billy Batson empowers to be a mini Captain Marvel so he can go around having superpowers and flying and such, which gets weird in an interesting way. It's like, well, why aren't I just Captain Marvel Jr. all the time if I can't walk in my regular body? And it's something that different writers have tried to tackle in different ways. We're going to see a little bit with Amon here. Amon Tamaz is the boy, and Renee's like, holy crap, that's Isis's brother. This is the kid we've been looking for.
We gotta help Isis.
Yeah, we gotta help Isis.
Yes. Unfortunately, they're spotted by the big guard monster, question mark. I mean, I guess the crime religion can do that as evidenced by what you see and what we saw in Gotham.
You're right.
So they have the science fiction ray gun. The question does make a daring leap for the crime Bible, which I do love also.
Yeah.
While I really do like how this fight scene is illustrated, I think there's a lot of dynamism in all the poses. They do feel very sort of like comic book splash page, even in the miniature. But halfway through the fight, after Renee gets injured in some way, I'm not sure where, but she does get injured in some way, Isis and Black Adam show up.
Yeah, what I really like about the Vic and Renee story here is that it really illustrates what their priorities are. Renee is she still has the fact that she had to kill a child on her mind. And the fact that she has Whisper in front of her gives her someone else to blame other than herself.
Yes, yeah.
So she's immediately trying to go aggro against her. And Vic is like, I want to know what's in that book.
Yeah.
Like, I know we're seeing a kid being beaten to death in front of us, but what's in that book?
Yes. God, I can't stop thinking about how much of a Swiftie Vic would be since you suggested it. I just think about, like, he'd listen to Tortured Poet Departments once, and then he'd show it outside of Matt Healy's house.
Right.
I was like, what did you do to her?
I mean, he's canonically a Britney bitch, so this is just where he would go. That's the pipeline.
You know, he would be leaking information to the press about Britney's evil conservatorship.
Oh,
you know he would be doing that. Yes. He's on the side of justice. He's a pop bitch. He's a pop girly.
Yeah, he's 100% free Britney.
Absolutely. He's there as the question at the trial. He's like, no, this is a matter of justice.
Yeah, got her out of that. And he was there for Taylor when she was getting out of that predatory album contract deal.
Absolutely. Just breaking. If anyone broke that, what's his name? Scotty, what's his fuck? If anyone broke his legs, I think it would be a service to mankind. So Vic, just go ahead.
Yeah.
But he is a galer, though. That is his flaw.
100%.
That's 100%. He is a galer, and he is an extremely toxic galer. One time Renee has to log into his phone and sees his other Twitter account where he's just harassing other Swifties for not believing in the Gaylor theory.
Do you honestly expect me to think this woman is straight? Points to a lyric that means nothing.
Yes, exactly. Yes. It's like, here's your IP address. Don't talk to me again.
A lyric that's just like, I like boys. I like kissing boys. It's like, this is a queer woman.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I laughed too loud. Ella's upset now. I woke up my cat because it was too funny. Okay, right. But back to Isis
Black
and
Adam
Black Adam. Yes. Isis heals wounds. That's a power she has, and she does heal Renee's wound. And then they beat the shit out of all these, like, they're just animal men. Like, let's just be real. It's like a big human pig and a big human tiger and a big human lizard. And that's what they are. And that's what the crime Bible makes. Question mark? We don't really know.
It's not important. Don't get into it. We do see Amon on a kind of like stone operating table, kind of implying that they're going to turn him into a beast man. I don't know, maybe a snake, maybe a crocodile, probably something Egypty.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Maybe a bird head.
Isis runs over there, tears in her eyes, is able to revive him, but it's also clear that even if she's able to heal his wounds, he won't be able to walk again.
Yeah.
And she's distraught. It starts raining inside because she has weather powers. I thought that was a cute detail. That feels like a very Rucka detail to me. Mm-hmm. And then the way that Renee notices it. And Black Adam walks over to Amon's body and introduces himself as his brother-in-law, and puts his hand on his chest and says, "Now repeat my name, Black Adam." And the next page is Amon turning into Osiris.
Yeah. A name which he just kind of adopts out of nowhere. He's like, "Why are you called Osiris?" "I don't know."
That seems just to be what I'm called.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much like a Captain Marvel Jr. moment, right?
Yeah.
Where they're brothers of a kind. They're a family. There's a Black Marvel family in the same way that there's a Marvel family now.
Right. In the same way that Black Adam says Shazam to transform, Osiris says Black Adam to transform, which is why Captain Marvel Jr. had to say Captain Marvel to transform, which created kind of an interesting continuity snarl later, because people were asking, well, if his name is Captain Marvel Jr., why doesn't he not transform every time he says his own name? Seven
Wizards, they all know, right?
Yeah,
they just know. That's fine.
In the 90s and 2000s, he starts going by CM3.
That's really cute. That's a really adorable way to get around that. That's adorable. Yeah. So yeah, the next couple of pages are just really sweet and adorable. Yeah. They're just like really lovely.
The rain stops and flowers are blooming everywhere. It's really nice.
Yeah, there's this beautiful illustration. Isis has gone from crying tears of grief to crying tears of joy. There's a really beautiful, genuine smile on her face. It's illustrated it's colored in with all these really warm, rich colors. Also, there's not a lot of shading. It's a bit kind of flat, but it makes it feel very saturated and Disney movie-esque. And then we move on to the next day, and it's just like a mushy kissing scene with Black Adam and Isis.
I don't want to skip over one of the most out of place but pretty funny jokes in the whole series.
It's a good bit, yes.
Where after Osiris transforms and he has his reunion with his sister, Vic Sage just stands there in a power pose going, "Black Adam, Shazam, Isis!" Renee asks, "What the hell are you doing?" And he says, "Seeing if it's contagious."
That made me think of you. That's what you would do if you were in that situation.
100%, yes. Greg Rucka credits Jeff Johns with writing this line. This is like the one time that Jeff has written the question, if you don't count the New 52, which I don't. In hindsight, a little bit foreshadowing of like stuff that we're going to find out with Vic Sage later.
Yep.
But yeah, in the moment, it's just like a really cute way to diffuse the schmaltz of the scene that just happened before we get right back into it.
Because we're going to get right back into it. So they're like Black Adam and Isis are on the balcony of their palace. They're kissing. It's very much I can show you the world, right?
100%.
It's very much a whole new world, Aladdin, Disney moment.
Yeah, I think this sixth panel on this page is literally a shot from Aladdin.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct, honestly. Except instead of Aladdin pulling Jasmine onto the carpet, it is Isis lifting Black Adam up as they can both fly.
Yeah.
So it kind of puts him in a role reversal moment where it's Black Adam that has to step out of his stodgy traditionalism and into excitement and newness.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And, as they start flying up into the air, they're joined by now their Captain Marvel Jr., Osiris. And she says, let's go to China. Like, let's be a real player on the world stage. Just change the world.
Which means we're getting back into everyone's favorite subplot, the Great 10. Who's excited for this?
Great 10, you guys. Everybody loves it.
Yes.
Nobody thinks it's bad.
Everyone's super cool with the Great 10. We've been talking about how fun and exciting Morrison has been this whole issue. Get ready for more.
Oh, boy. They said they did a lot of research for this, and I just really want to know what was it. Show me it, because it's not on the page.
Yes. How much of that research you did included the sting? Do 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 do.
Have you seen that clip from the cartoon Doug that's going around of him like having a racist moment in a sushi restaurant?
Oh my god!
And it's like they have an original soundtrack and they do that sting.
Doug always stressed me the fuck out because
Why
it's
does
like
Doug stress you out?
every episode is about Doug having like a stress hallucination.
No, that's true. He is the world's most anxious tween. He's having a bad time always.
Like he keeps having these elaborate fantasies, but all of them are about terrible things happening to him.
Don't like it.
No.
Don't like it.
Like his greatest, deepest held fantasy is Patty Mayonnaise calling him cringe. And he relives it in every episode.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, I will never think about Doug in the same way. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Oh, man. Yeah, I was a Rugrats guy.
I mean, Rugrats is superior, obviously.
We go on to our backup now, these fantastic 2-page bios that Mark Waid's been writing. We're getting to do Wildcat this issue, which is apropos because this main story ends with a teaser that we're going to see a little bit more of the Justice Society of America next time. Fun fact about Wildcat, created in 1942, has never had a solo comic series. He's like one of the most popular members of the Justice Society of America. He's this scrappy boxer dude who like always shows people the ropes. He's been a mentor to Black Canary, to Batman, to Catwoman, but he's like never had his own solo feature. Like he had a backup in Sensation Comics, which was a Wonder Woman feature back in the 40s. And since then, he's mainly a Justice Society guy. He just, nobody's like had a pitch of like, here's a Wildcat story. So this is Mark Waid trying to summarize what we know about this guy in 2 pages, which is pretty easy because we don't know a lot.
Yeah, there's fewer panels on both of these pages than any previous comic book little 2-page origin story. It truly is 3 panels on the first page, and then I think, just 4 panels on the next. It's a very, very simple story.
He tells Wildcat's whole story, and there's 3 pages. Like panel 1, he was a boxer. Panel 2, a tragedy. Panel 3, he decides to be a hero. And then panel 4 is he's heroing. And then the next few panels are just him training other heroes and hanging out with the Justice Society. He's kind of like a supporting character to the rest of the superhero community, which, not everybody has to be the star. And that's kind of why Wildcat has the fan base he does. People like a supporting player.
Yeah, and they like a sort of reliable mentor figure. It's why people like Morpheus, right?
Right.
And they imagine him giving that instruction to you. It's like a satisfying character to have around because they have all the answers to the mentor. They've been through it all.
What's really cool about this 2-pager is that the art is by Jerry Ordway. He was the inker on Crisis on Infinite Earths. He was the writer of a great 90s Shazam series, The Power of Shazam. But most importantly, back in the 80s, he was the penciler on All-Star Comics and Infinity Inc., which were the books about the JSA. So he's like the authority on drawing Wildcat at this point. So best possible guy to channel for this 2-page backup, as little of it as we got. This is Wildcat as we know him best. We got Alex Sinclair doing the colors, our main colorist. And that's pretty much the end of the issue.
That pretty much is the end of the issue.
That wraps it all up. This is one of those issues which is mostly taken up by a fight scene, but you don't really even care that much because Drew Johnson and Ray Snyder's art is great.
Yes, it's beautiful. It's really, really expressive, and I really do like the poses in the fight scenes specifically. You feel like you are seeing really good storyboards for a movie, essentially.
It starts with that mad scientist island reveal, which is going to give you enough to think about for a whole week.
Yeah.
And there are like important developments in this issue. So it feels a lot bigger than it is.
For sure. It's a very stuffed episode. It answers questions, but the answers to those questions raise even more questions. We wondered for 20 weeks where the mad scientists were going. Well, now you have the answer to that, but even they don't know why they're there.
Questions about the island is something that 52 might be drawing on from like culture in the air at the time.
Many people have questions about the island, you see.
What was your favorite scene in this issue?
Favorite scene has to be just the mad scientist reveal. I know that's also yours too, but let's just talk about it. It's so good.
So good.
Just like, oh no, my Cricketron's berserk.
Like, obviously, you think about Lost. Obviously, you think about Watchmen. I've had Watchmen in my head this whole time, which is similarly the premise of we're going to abduct the greatest minds in the world to design some kind of monster together.
Yeah, and there it's played for drama in Watchmen, where you see in the background headlines in the news about famous artists and scientists going missing. But then you realize that Ozymandias has murdered them all to create his horrible alien, and it's becomes very tragic. Here, it's we took you to Hookers and Blow Island. Please do all of
we
this
took
stuff.
you to Bender's Casino.
Yes, we did. It's basically Patty's Bar for mad scientists.
Oh my God. Yeah. But there is that kind of sinister undercurrent that maybe it won't end well. Maybe they're taking them out for one last trip before they all get fixed.
Absolutely.
So I was looking at the time for theories about what the inspiration for this was. Was it a Watchmen reference? Was it a Lost reference? And I saw one theory that all of these guys might actually be drawing from the same place, Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's such a good pull.
Which has a plot about all of these great minds being gathered together on this island to create great works.
That is where John Galt gives his speech over the radio, essentially. Yeah.
So this might be John Galt Island.
Okay, I have to tell you something really important, and I'm going to hold you to it. I'm going to check in on this.
Okay.
Have you seen the documentary series on HBO, The Anarchist?
No.
Okay, you have to watch it. I'm going to tell you why. And also, everyone listening to this, you have to watch this. It's incredible. It's better because the guy who made the documentary is totally duped by all these stupid charlatans. But it's about a bunch of not real anarchists, but anarcho-capitalists. So essentially people that don't want to pay taxes, who all moved to Mexico, Acapulco, Mexico. And they take over the town, a small community of this small town, and get a bunch of white people to move there. And they practice what they believe to be anarchism is, which is, again, basically just not paying taxes. And they have a music festival. But here's the thing. It's not a music festival. It's a conference for anarcho-capitalists. People come to sell drugs specifically at this conference. But did you know that there's actually very powerful and deadly drug cartels in Mexico?
Oh, this is news to me.
Oh, well, there certainly are. And they really don't like it when a bunch of gringos come with a whole hell of a lot of coke and sell drugs in their town. So it becomes quite violent.
Well, I just finished your last recommendation to me, Delicious in Dungeon.
Listen, I haven't steered you wrong yet, have I?
So I got to check out The Anarchist.
The best part about it, truly, is that so many different people that go to this conference and move to Acapulco, they all call themselves John Galt or some variation of John Galt. There's 20 different people they interview that are called John Galt. One of them is Juan Galt. One of them is John Galton.
Oh my God.
It's really funny.
That is kind of funny.
And it's better because the person making the documentary doesn't realize these people are really stupid. He thinks that they're kind of smart, which is sort of an, oh, honey, you got some life to live moment. But it makes the documentary better. Anyway.
Here's something I genuinely want to ask you. What do you think Grant Morrison thinks of Ayn Rand?
I think that they want to resurrect her so they can kill her. That's what I genuinely think.
I want to summon her ghost so I can banish it to hell.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just in case she's not there now.
Exactly. If you may have landed in purgatory, I'm going to make sure you're damned.
Yeah, that absolutely tracks for me. I want to point out a little exchange between Vic and Renee in the weird crime Bible church in Yemen, where Renee's trying to take a shot at Whisper Adair, and Vic's like, that book, though. And Renee says, you really are a bastard. And he says, well, I was raised in an orphanage, so you're probably right.
Yes. So funny. Well, have you considered that I am rubber and you are glue?
I just love the bitchy dynamic between these two so much.
I do. I love it so much.
People ask me all the time, if you were going to do a question comic today, what would it be like? It's just just put these two together again. Let them both be the question.
Yeah. Why wouldn't there be two questions? There's a lot of questions I have about life.
One good question begs another. Do you have anything to put up on the Blackboard this week?
What modeling agency is sending these women to the Mad Scientist Island?
Right?
Why they're a bunch of bikini babes. I like to imagine that they're all like Charlie XCX style, like crazy girl shit, let's go spring breakers type women.
Yeah.
That are like, let's see how much we can get out of this. And also, they're also mad scientists in a certain way. Like, they're mad social scientists.
Ooh.
Right? And they're just so like, how insane can we drive all these men as bikini babes until they'll give us all their money? That's the scam that they're like they're rolling in the background.
I like that a lot more than my sex trafficking theory.
Yeah, that was my initial theory, but I wanted to make it more positive, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just definitely sex trafficking.
Yes, because we all know how great Grant Morrison is at writing women with believable motivations.
Anyway, moving on.
I want to talk about Captain Marvel Jr.
Please.
Captain Marvel Jr. is very much the inspiration for Amon's transformation in this. Back in the 1940s, there was a brief time where Captain Marvel was so successful that it was outselling Superman. And they're like, we aren't making enough Captain Marvel books to keep up with demand. We need another Captain Marvel book. So they're like, you know how Captain Marvel is a boy who transforms into an adult superhero? What if we just had a boy superhero who was still a boy when he transformed? Maybe kids would be able to relate to that more. So they introduced Captain Marvel Jr. and gave him this backstory where his legs were smashed by Nazis, so that when he transformed, he could get revenge on them. And the weird twist of fate is that because of that, the old Captain Marvel Jr. stories are a lot darker than the like Captain Marvel stories. It's about him fucking up Nazis instead of hanging out with talking tigers. His arch nemesis is literally named Captain Nazi. It deals with a lot of social issues, the same way some early Superman stories do. I mean, it's mostly Allied propaganda, but it's actually like acknowledging stuff like the horrors of war and poverty. And it's really interesting to me. The kid superhero they invented is a lot more adult than the adult superhero they came up with in the beginning. And it's something we're going to see with Black Adam here. It's about taking these like fantastic powers you got from a wizard and thinking, well, what does that mean for global politics? And that's something that Captain Marvel Jr. explored all the way back in the 1940s.
So interesting.
Thank you.
That was really, really, really interesting. I was just listening calmly because I was riveted.
Yeah, I looked at your face and it was like you were listening to an NPR podcast. It's like, I'll take it.
I literally could just listen to you talk about this. Like, this is why I invited you to be on the podcast, right? This is like just listen to you talk about this minutia all day long. So it's so interesting.
I don't know if we talked about this story explicitly on the show, but when this started is I was invited over to your place for Shabbos dinner. And you told me that you wanted to do a podcast about 52. And then I would not shut up about 52 for 3 straight hours.
That's basically how it happened. My husband was very patient and kind.
Yeah.
He's a great man.
He's a cool guy. I like him.
We love him. We love him.
Yeah.
In this house, we love David.
No problems with David.
Yeah. No David beef here. No, but I just love thinking about how characters end up being a part of this huge, like decades long, like over almost 100 years old universe, basically from an editorial decision to try to sell more comics.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Always fascinating to me that he only exists because they were like, okay, but this little boy turns into a man. What if a little boy just turned into a stronger little boy?
Yeah. Like the reason there's so many gorilla supervillains in DC Comics is that an editor noticed, hey, if there's a gorilla on a cover, people buy more of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then these become long-running, like the ramifications of that choice, like a fucking butterfly wing in Brazil,
60 years later, Gorilla Grodd is threatening to kill Barack Obama.
We have to do an episode on Legends of Tomorrow.
Oh my God. Yeah.
The only problem is we both know too many people that would be great guest stars.
I know.
Episode.
We got to do a show on Legends of Tomorrow. We got to do a show on Gotham.
Yes, we do have to go do a show on Gotham. It's got Jada Pinkett Smith on it.
Yeah.
Being out of control.
I have never seen an episode of Gotham because it looks bad to me. But
I mean, is it good? No. Did I watch most of that first season? Yes. Just baffled.
Yeah. Jada Pinkett Smith plays a character named Fish Mooney.
She really does do that. She 100% did that.
Yeah.
And then the main character is Jim Gordon, but as played by the other guy from the OC.
The one who isn't Chris McCa.
Yes. And then went on to like write a whole book about why Bitcoins are stupid and NFTs suck.
Okay, I kind of like that for him.
He does kind of rock now. He's become like a real activist against cryptocurrency and the blockchain. I really respect that a lot. But yes, we do have one very special bonus episode that we're going to be recording that I don't want to give away the topic of because it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for. We will be covering a DC show very soon.
We will be covering a DC show.
Maybe we already mentioned it and gave it away in a previous episode. I don't know.
But who knows? You know what? Have fun discovering.
Yeah. Anyway, you want to go to the mailbag?
I would love to go to the mailbag.
All right. It's time for asking the questions. Our first question this week comes from Emrys, who says, "Hi, Gita and Alex. Growing up reading DC Comics, it always seems strange to me that multiverses are so big now. Do you have a favorite version of the multiverse? It doesn't have to be the DC one particularly. The 52 Earths stacked up like billiards is a fun image, but the old Infinite Earths was probably my favorite just for sheer unbridled silliness and possibility. I'm not ready, Emrys."
I think the multiversity, Grant Morrison multiverse, is my favorite visualization of how a multiverse would work. Because it doesn't make any sense, like, self-consciously.
Yeah.
Their goal, whenever they explain something, is to allow more room for other writers to fill in the gaps. And that feels the most honest about what the DC multiverse is conceptually. It's like a lot of big spaces that are defined and then deliberately left question marks so other writers can fill in the gaps.
My favorite illustration of a multiverse is that one episode of Community where they roll a die to determine who's going to pick up the pizza.
Yeah, that's very good, honestly. Yeah. That's really, 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 really good.
Like, I think you can see the genesis of Rick and Morty in that episode.
Yeah. You know, my very, very favorite depiction of a multiverse does come from a book, genuinely, which is The Gone World, where it's essentially described as, like, they do time travel, but they're told that the futures they travel to are only possibilities, and they will cease because you're sliding into a bubble of quantum foam. And because that is not the present, it is only a hypothetical future. So you will see in your time travel several different versions of the same year as you continue to return to it. Because as soon as you leave that quantum foam bubble, that future ceases to exist.
It's pretty good.
It's a really weird book. I really, really, really love that book. My goal is to Biggless Dickless style, make this book go to the top of the charts one day just for no reason other than me saying, please fucking read it. It's so fucking good. I love it.
I can only take one recommendation per episode, and I'm already full up on the anarchist.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Our next question is from Johnny. This is a good one. What are y'all's favorite non-52 run or story by each writer who worked on 52?
That's a great question, and I had to hurriedly Google some things, but I did. I figured it all out.
Oh, cool. I came up with some if you wanted some more time, but you can go for it.
Grant Morrison, I'm still deciding, so I'll go with my other three, which all came to me immediately, like I just knew exactly. But with Jeff Johns, it's got to be Blackest Night, Brightest Day, as a two-parter. I just read that at a very formative time, and it imprinted on my brain.
I'm not a fan of his Brightest Day, but Blackest Night works.
Blackest Night is good as fuck, and Brightest Day, I just was like, it was just it's my favorite, right? Which doesn't mean I think it's the best.
Brightest Day is just like, give me more. I'm not done yet.
Exactly, right? And I wasn't done yet with that. And it was one of the first comic books events that I followed and like made an effort to keep on top of, which was hard because I was in college.
Blackest Night
Blackest Night is so good, though. I love Blackest Night. Blackest Night, Brightest Day. And then for Rucka, it's Gotham Central. Just love it. Just love it. Again, formative. It took that shit out from the library. I loved it.
I've been rereading it. Holds the fuck up.
Mark Waid, it is Superman Birthright.
Yeah.
I think that was the first time I really got Superman, and it like made a huge impact on me. And then that leads me to what has to be my favorite Grant Morrison, and that's All-Star Superman.
It's gotta be. That's the one you write about.
I love it. It makes me cry. It makes me cry every time. Yeah. And it also makes me feel full of hope and love for the universe. The best depiction of Lex Luthor, one of the best depictions of Lois, the best depiction of the story of Superman losing his father, I think. And I think it's some of the best Frank Quitely art also.
Sure.
And I know that's like an acquired taste for a lot of people, but that book taught me how to appreciate Frank Quitely. And I just think it's Grant Morrison at the top of all of their powers.
For me, I'm trying to pick some deeper cuts here because that's who I am.
Yeah.
For Grant Morrison, I really loved the Multiversity Thunderworld.
Yeah.
One of the coolest things about Morrison's Multiversity event was that there were these breakout tie-in issues, which originally, as envisioned by Morrison, each one was going to be by a different person. But that didn't work out that way. And they ended up writing all of them. And in Thunderworld, they absolutely, the same way they got to the heart of who Superman is in All-Star Superman, they really get to the heart of why Captain Marvel was such a huge popular character in the 40s. Just tapping into the utter joy and silliness of it. That it just like really connected me back to being 3 years old and watching Dr. Savannah walk through a wall by reciting a formula. Which was just how I fell in love with comics. And
That's really cute.
It's like just on a personal level, it's my favorite thing they've done. Jeff has done some stuff I liked. I think he was really successful in reinventing Aquaman in 2011. I think he's really successful in, he does a lot of cool stuff with Booster Gold, not just in 52, but afterwards in his spinoff 2007 Booster Gold series. You'll hear, if you listen to the Jeff Johns interview I did, for this show, he tells this great story about how DC wanted him to take over Batman, and he's like, I don't want to do Batman, I want to do Booster Gold. And like, they're like, really? Come on, please, just pick someone
We're trying
else.
to do you a favor here. Yeah. And he's like, no.
Yeah. So they're like, fine, we'll give you 12 issues on Booster Gold, and killed it. But my absolute favorite Jeff Johns thing, despite not really liking what he did with The Flash, reinventing Barry Allen, he did this incredible issue in like 2010 or 2011, The Flash number 8, which was a new origin for Reverse Flash, Eobard Thawne, where he keeps going back in time and editing his own history. And we get to know who Flash's arch nemesis is as a character in a way that just... it works as like one of my favorite modern sci-fi horror stories. And just like not enough people are talking about this issue. And like, if you're going to read one issue about a Flash villain, which is kind of how Jeff made his bones reinventing the Rogues, making Captain Cold into such a likable character, the way he treats Eobard as just this irredeemable bastard asshole who just has horrific implications for everything he does. It's my favorite work of his, absolutely. For Greg Rucka, my favorite work of his is not a comic. My favorite thing he's ever done is the novelization he did of Batman No Man's Land, which was the most ambitious project of Denny O'Neil's career. Kind of his swan song as editor of the Batman group was, let's get every Batman title together, everyone on the same page, and tell a story over a year in real time, much like the story we're covering now, about Gotham City being cut off from the United States and how every person in Gotham deals with that.
No Man's Land has some aspects of it, I think, were unpopular with fans, and fans were eventually proven right about some certain editorial decisions, but as a Batman story, it's nearly perfect.
Like you say, there are some parts of it that don't quite work because there are a lot of moving parts involved. And what's really interesting about the novelization is Greg Rucka looks at that and he goes, there's the shape of a really good story here. And he's able to carve it out of that marble by dropping what doesn't work and elevating what does. And I think it's the definitive version of No Man's Land today. The same way that the movie version of Under the Red Hood has kind of supplanted the comic. And for Mark, for me, it's Superman Birthright as well. I'm specifically going to call out issue number 9, which just lives in my head forever. The moment that Lex Luthor discovers that Superman doesn't know about Krypton or what happened to it. And Luthor just starts losing it and going, oh my God, this is the best day of my life. I can't wait to tell you that your entire civilization is dead. This is the best.
Yeah, it makes me go back and really appreciate the things that Smallville gave to the Superman mythos. The idea of Lex Luthor being not just pathologically obsessed with Superman because he can't accept that anyone's been better than him ever, but pathologically obsessed with Clark Kent specifically.
Yeah.
Because he knows who Clark Kent is. And also just is so frustrated that everything comes so easily to him when he has to work so hard. It adds a lot of dimension to the mad scientist-ness of Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I know you say your favorite Lex Luthor is Grant Morrison's Luthor, and I totally get that. It's a great. The Luthor issue of All-Star Superman is incredible.
It's really like his breakdown at the end of that issue. I don't want to give it away. It's so good. But he has this moment where he gets to see the world the way Superman sees it.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful moment in comics.
But for me, it's got to be Mark because, like, I don't think Luthor would break down. The frustration of Luthor is that he always chooses himself. Even like that's the thing that is setting him back from greatness.
Essentially, you have to say, what would Elon Musk do in this situation? Right. And that's what the Lex Luthor choice. Elon Musk, when his daughter came out as trans, said, no, you're dead to me.
Right.
Like, that's the kind of person that is.
So the redeemed Lex Luthor stories don't work for me because evil billionaires don't get redeemed.
Yeah, they get dead.
Yeah.
That's allegedly.
See our well episode.
Yeah, exactly. It's a well-based system of justice. It makes perfect sense.
All right. One more question. Why haven't you talked about Joker 1 Operation Joker yet? We did that in our last episode, I believe.
Oh my God.
We got to do an episode.
We have to do an episode on that too. I have to read it. I have to.
You'll read it in 2 hours and you're going to lose your entire mind.
I can't wait. I'm going to make David read it too.
Yes. Maybe we could have David on as a guest. How about that?
Oh my God, he would love that. Bonus episode with David.
Let's do 1 Operation Joker with David.
Yes, I'm going to have to figure out how we're going to record that in our apartment, but I'll make it work. I'll figure it out. And David he's always wanted to guest on something, but I think that this is the opportunity. This is the one.
Yes, the episode about raising a baby Bruce Wayne is absolutely it.
Yeah.
I think that's all the questions we have, unless you know.
Actually, I do have one more question.
Yeah.
Listen really closely. It's like I gotta just whisper. Hang on, whisper. Are you ready?
What?
Are you ready?
Aye, Kevin.
52 Pickup is an Aftermath production created by Gita Jackson and Alex Jaffe and edited by Esper Quim with original music by John Ahrens. The views and opinions expressed on this show are solely those of the show's personalities and do not reflect those of DC Entertainment or Warner Brothers. Please rate and review our show wherever you can and send your questions and comments to 52mailbag@gmail.com. Never stop reading comics.